This is something that I've been planning on doing for a while here, and what we're doing is we're cutting an access hatch in the floor to access the fuel pump, so that you don't have to drop the tank full of gas and work with stuff falling in your face from underneath, whether it be gas, dirt, whatever. Here is the hole that we've cut in the floor to access that fuel pump. Here's our filler hose right here. In fact, in one of the vehicles I had, the clamps that were put on the filler hose, they were actually faced up. So there was no way to disconnect those from underneath the vehicle. Mine are face down, so you can get them from the bottom there. So anyone else who's interested, I'm measuring off of here. I'm sitting here looking at probably 6 1/4 to maybe 9 1/4. We'll get you a nice window that way. When we come from this side here, we're going to take a look, and you can see that I've got it at 6 inches and probably 1 foot. The only thing you want to be careful of is you don't want to hit this gas tank here. As you can see over here, I unknowingly, when I was cutting this, I didn't realize that the tank was up tight against the floor. So you can see where I've nicked it here, and I'll have to repair that with either plastic weld or JB weld or something similar like that to repair the tank. We'll get in here for some measurements for the access hatch for the gas tank itself. What I would want to do is I'd want to cut in the center of this frame support here, and then work my way out. So then that's kind of the safe zone where you can cut without hitting your gas tank. At the back here, you don't really have to worry. You've got some space there. If you hit it in the middle here, you should be okay. If you hit it in the middle here, you should be okay. And if you go past here in about this area, you should be okay as well. Again, we're measuring just off of there, and then you can see for yourself, looks like we're at about 12 1/2 inches there. So if you got to about 13 1/2 inches for your initial cut, you should be pretty safe. Over on this side here, you're going to see that we're closer to, looks like 31 3/4 to the outside. But again, if you went 30 1/2 for your initial cut, you should be pretty good that way. When we come in from this side here, we get in here, we can see that we're close to, from this edge here, close to 1 inch. You would probably go 1 inch out and you'd be fine. Again, you can see that you've got space in here that you should not have to hit the tank when you cut that out. So we're going to go 1 inch from the end here, and then as we go along, if you made your initial cut at about 23 inches or 22 1/2 and you're in the center of this here, that would be fine. I've gone to roughly 24 1/2 inches. Now that we've got the hole cut in there, now we've got to figure out what we're going to do for making fasteners and then being able to bolt down our plate to cover it all up. With the idea being that you simply remove your bolts, remove your plate, get that out of the way. You got your access, disconnect your connections for that, unscrew the fastener that holds it down to the tank, pull that out, pop the new one in, hook everything up, put your plate back down. I can't see why it wouldn't take any less than half an hour to do. Here's another Jeep here. We're going to actively change the fuel pump. The fuel pump is actually good in that other one that we were looking at, but that was our test subject to kind of figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So what I did here was I did make sure that I got into where the frame is on this side here, again here, and then we've got an initial cut there. I'll probably end up cutting that back further, but as it stands right now, we just want to get this vehicle running. So I got the plate cut out of the floor. We're going to change that fuel pump and clean all that muck and dirt out of there and clean it up really good, change the fuel pump, see if we can't get this thing running. Once we get it running, then we'll get into finishing off our access hatch in here. Now that we have our access, the second thing that we did was we just cut a portion of this lip off the frame here. I just measured out, drilled a couple holes, and then so we got the rounded edges there, and then removed that lip. So then that's going to help us get that pump out. When you come in here, you've got your fuel line right in there. Well, I just took some needle nose pliers and and I pinch here and here, and there's a little recess, little slot. If you can see that, I've just got it passed, so this little piece here will go into that groove. So we've got that where it's ready to come off. It should just pull off of here now. So that's our fuel line. Underneath, what I did was I disconnected the plug from underneath, so it's unplugged there. And then we can undo our vacuum line if we feel that we need any more room. If this is in the way, we can also disconnect this, kind of get it out of the way. Another thing you want to do is get that compressed air, and you want to clean this out really well, because when we pull this one out, we put the new one in. We don't want any contamination into the gas tank, so we want to try and get it as clean as you can. I use the compressed air, blow that all clean. Now I got the hammer and a very blunt chisel here. The edges are all blunted off on this thing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to counterclockwise, we're going to tap on this thing, and hopefully it'll come off without any trouble. But it is plastic, and what can happen is you can shear your little tabs here that you're using to get it off. Another thing I do is I want to mark it right here, so when I put the new one in, now I have an idea as to where I'm hitting home for the final installation. Here's that old pump removed. We've got an ice cream pail there, and if I failed to mention before, there's a sound deadening material that's on the metal. So I just used some heat to loosen it up and then scrape it off with a scraper. And then that way you don't have a big mess to deal with when you're using your grinder to cut the metal out. Back in here, we take a look and we can see that the tank is actually pretty clean down in there. So that's all good. We don't have to worry about any debris or garbage in there. We'll notice that this is the old rubber seal. So we either reuse it or replace it. Here's our new pump here. Here's that rubber seal right there that's on the new pump. And again, if we're looking for a part number, that's what I was able to find for replacement part. I don't know if it's the best choice, but it's just what's available to me. So what we'll do now is we're going to take the new pump, and then because there's our float there, we got to articulate it in there a certain way to get it in. Here's our filter on the bottom, our pump, our gas level reader there, and I do believe on the top here this is the pressure regulator, I think. Now in my case, when I reinstalled it, my mark was right here, and that's where it was before. It ended up going a little bit past, and then after that I didn't want to really overdo it. You can tell on the bottom that there's hardly any room on the bottom there, so it's seated down. It's where it wants to be. What I'll do is I'll take the wiring, push it in down in there, plug it in. The new one didn't come with this little piece on here, so I took this off the old one. And what you'll do is you'll take that off of there, and then remember that we pinched it off like this. So this is basically the way that that's going to go on there. And then once you line up your fuel line, you just push it on. It's on, it's not coming off. Simple as that. So now we've got this hooked up here. We're going to plug that in, and then we're going to try and start this thing. With the key just before the start position, you should be able to hear this thing running. Maybe you can hear it humming away there. I can hear it running. Or you can also touch the top here and feel the mild vibration of the pump running. So the pump is running, and it's delivering the fuel and creating your fuel pressure and your fuel rail there. So this is your indication that your pump is working. When you have the key just before the start position, you should hear your fuel pump running. Here's that key just before the start position. Then we're going to turn it on. And we got it running. Now we replaced that fuel pump. We got this